Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode. This is Aaron B. Moore, Wealth Advisor. We have a very special guest, Leila Parviz, today. She is a family lawyer and mediator, and a great story to tell. Today, our topics are going to be talking about prenups before you get married and talking about child-centered divorce proceedings. Leila has an incredible story to tell. 10 years ago, she moved to this country from Tehran, didn't know English, taught herself English, and 5 years ago completed law school. So now she is a practicing lawyer in Southern California with clients all over the state of California. Leila, it is a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you for having me, Aaron.
Definitely. I want to jump in. Myself and my team, we are financial planners. And the way that we position financial planning is having a cohesive and consistent plan with your money in your life. A lot of the times we work with couples, and going through a planning process is akin, and I saw this, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you, akin to a prenup, right? Because you're having these difficult conversations about how money is important to you in your life, budgeting, saving, travel, all these things. And so when I heard you talk about a prenup in terms of marriage, I was curious, and I would love to hear your take on that, because I like to use the language of financial prenup. And so here we have an attorney on the line that's going to talk to us about an actual prenup. Talk to us about that a little bit, and maybe why that's important to you and your experience.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, similar to what you just discussed, prenup, it's pretty much a financial planning, because if you don't make that financial planning yourself, then the state of California is going to do that for you. And it's a really good opportunity for couples to have these difficult conversations. That's actually one of the main reasons for divorce later down the road, in a lot of cases, to have this difficult conversation at the beginning and understand their style, understand the things, and have an agreement around things that will help them in the future. A lot of people think that if you get a prenup, your marriage is going to get jinxed. But that's not the case. It's planning. It's just like something is there. And the fact that, okay, this is going to happen in case of divorce, in my opinion, is just one piece of it. The whole piece about the fact that you're going to start having some kind of difficult conversation in advance, that's even better.
Right. So what you're saying is the perception is that if you get a prenup, that is one of the conditions to getting divorced, because you're putting in a seed of doubt, right? You're sowing some doubt into it. What I just heard you say is it's the opposite, that actually having that conversation with your spouse before getting married and being on the same page actually prepares you, right, for a lifetime of being married together, and actually could put you in a better position than not having one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think one of the examples is like, if you get a car insurance or earthquake insurance or whatever, it doesn't mean that, necessarily now you're going to have a car accident and now there's going to be an earthquake. It's just like you do something for your peace of mind.
Right.
And the thing is, it's kind of like, a lot of people are more familiar with like estate planning and wills and trusts. It's the same thing. Like, if you don't have a will, everything, is going to be like whatever the government is going to take it.
Right. Right. Through probate.
Yes. Yeah. And the same thing with in prenup, because there is a community law under California and community properties. And so if you don't have an agreement ahead of time, then if you want to get a divorce, then those laws will become your prenup. So it's kind of like a hidden prenup. The question is whether you want to have something that you negotiated for and evaluated the pros and cons, or you just want like something that is like the state law be the governing document?
Leila, that's really fascinating because, my last guest was actually an estate planning attorney, and we talked about this, right? And one of them, and this goes back to our original point, the perception of who needs a prenup. The perception of who needs an estate plan is, oh, I need to have millions and millions of dollars. It's only for the ultra wealthy who has a trust fund, but somebody that I don't know. And it doesn't impact me because I don't have the assets that require that. Well, that's actually not true, because just like you said, in estate planning, if you don't have an estate plan in place, then the state of California is going to decide for you through an open court public proceeding called probate. And what I'm learning from you right now is that same thing happens when couples get divorced.
Yes.
And obviously we don't want to, you never think that you want to get divorced. And I like what you said too about kind of having these insurances and them being a waste. I refer to term life insurance, right? If someone relies upon you financially, you need term life insurance. A lot of the time that will fund an estate plan. I want that term life insurance premium to be the biggest waste of money ever, because your life is more important, obviously. So that's what I'm hearing for you with this prenup, that's actually the power of this, and why that's really why not some people that go into it from previous marriages with multiple kids, because I can imagine that's where it makes some really clear sense when you have a mixed family and you're joining finances later in life. But Leila, what you're saying is that even people without kids, at the beginning of the road, really sitting down and having these conversations and putting it down on paper. And that's what you help your clients achieve, correct?
Yes. And you mentioned something about like people have this idea that, you have to have like big assets, or like, a lot of times our celebrities are doing that. But in fact, everybody has some sort of a situation. Maybe you are the person that have a lot of debt, or like, you're the person that you want to like marry is going to have significant debt. So you want to make sure that it's not just about like asset, it's also covered the other place, and, set something in place. Or let's say you're working on this startup from way, 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 way before, because I know you're up in Northern California, way before even your fiance or future wife or husband, and like it may take off, during your marriage, and somehow you wanted to make sure that at the end, if things go south, you have something in place so that, for example, the other person cannot say, oh, half of this business, but for the most part, you were the one that like did all the work for it, is going to be for like, she can have a claim about it.
That's right. Yeah, that's certainly something that we come across where, that's one of the biggest questions we help our clients answer is, hey, how much energy should I be putting in my project, right? We work with extremely intelligent people that lend their skills for a paycheck to large tech companies here in the Bay Area. But a lot of them have ideas to launch their own startups and companies. So that's great to know. The other thing that just struck me is we work with a lot of medical executives. And if you have a degree, you have undergraduate degree, and then you have your doctorate degree, then you go through residency or your fellowship. We've seen clients with $200,000 to $400,000 of debt. So yeah, if one person in the relationship is earning, you're still in residency or fellowship, you earn a pittance of what you're going to earn post fellowship or post residency. Those are some serious things to talk about. And so either through this prenup and also through a financial plan, or actually through both, because what we do is where the rubber meets the road, putting these things in action. But what you do actually protects these couples in court and make sure their interests are protected.
Yes.
Yeah. So go on.
No, go ahead.
So I think that's extremely fascinating. I still think that there's going to be a block, right, where people are thinking, okay, I hear what you're saying. I get that it's important, but my parents, my grandparents, no one I know has a prenup. So I feel like a lot of what you and I do is fighting inertia, right? Fighting people's inability to take action in their own lives. What's the first step that somebody could take if they're interested in learning more about a about a prenup, a legal prenup? What's the first step that people that are listening today should be taking to start the process to figure out if that's right for them or not?
So I think it's always good to have at least, even if they don't want to go through the process and draft their prenup for whatever belief they have, it's good to at least meet with an attorney for about an hour. People plan for their weddings, hundreds, tens of thousands of dollars. And just, okay, this is the flower, this is the music. And I don't think speaking with an attorney for maybe half an hour, just to understand what these community property law concept means and what they are getting into, then they can decide for themselves.
Right. That's such a great point. I think a cheap wedding in the Bay Area would be 30 to 50,000. Cheap.
Yeah.
And it pays to have very beautiful flowers. But just like your photographs on your wedding day, that's going to last a lifetime. So will this prenup, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So I think that's great. I think having and setting up, and is that something that you're open if listeners want to reach out to you to schedule time? How does that work to reach out to you and meet with you? How does that work?
Yes. They can feel free to call my office and, I can share my information and we will have a brief, in half an hour, 15 to half an hour, free consult. If they want to go to more depth and detail, we will make another appointment, but that's the first step.
Good. Right. So if you're listening today, the first step, book 15 to 30 minutes with Leila, complimentary time to sit down with a practicing attorney to figure out if this is right for you. Sounds like a no-brainer, Leila.
Yes. And especially because, unfortunately, I'm also on the other side and I see people, how much they spend in the legal fees in their divorce. That just makes me so sad a lot of times. Okay, this could have been avoided.
Right. Well, and that was the other topic that I wanted to talk to you. And actually that was the topic that pulled at my heartstrings the most, that was the most compelling, that made me want to reach out and to meet you, because unfortunately divorce does happen. And the thing that you said, which was really poignant for me, was that you take a child-centered focus in these divorce proceedings. You're looking to make out-of-court solutions, to make families have amicable resolutions through really difficult times. And that really struck a chord, because I think anyone and everyone that's listening to this, if they're not a product of divorce, they don't have to look far to see a marriage, whether that's their parents or themselves or an aunt or an uncle, where the marriage has dissolved. And who bears the brunt of that? It's the kids, right? So Leila, talk about what is a child-centered divorce and what is your role in that process?
So, that's an issue near and dear to my heart because, I'm a child of divorce myself. And I can firsthand tell you that divorce doesn't end when you finally sign that divorce paperwork. Or even let's say your children reach the age of 18. Because of that, I think it's very important to see the divorce process also as a planning process so that and you learn how you can better navigate your life after divorce, your relationship with the mother of your child or the father of your child and your children. And unfortunately, in court system, because the focus goes on the law and deadline and motion and what to argue in front of the judge, what is really at stake is just get forgotten, because you got to meet the deadlines. And there is this adversarial nature that just make things worse and worse and worse. But when you choose an out-of-court option, such as mediation or collaborative divorce, or like something in between, maybe you can get along so well so that you can negotiate the term of your divorce, but then have an attorney review that. Then this way you take control and ownership over the outcome of your divorce, and it's much better, and it allows you to think about other things just on, okay, this is how we're going to divide the house, and I'm going to pay you X amount of dollar per month. And I really, really recommend in that process to involve, because my training, I'm an attorney, I studied law. They call family law attorneys hidden therapists, but I didn't go to school for psychologists. So I really always recommend to people to, have some mental health professional, talk to some mental health professional, because they are the one that know it better.
Right. Yeah, no, there's definitely a mental health stigma. That's a whole nother conversation for another day, but same deal. People don't seek mental, marriage, family therapy, or personal therapy, individual therapy, as they go through these things, which are highly emotional in nature and really get to the core of our upbringing and our experiences and our hidden values, things that kind of live beneath the surface that we don't know exist until something bubbles up, right? There was a quote that I remember my parents had in their home that said, you don't know, it was actually my mom. She had a quote that says, you don't know the strength of a woman until you put her in hot water. And it's like a tea bag, right? You don't know and that's just similarly, right? You don't know how you're going to respond in a high stress environment until you're challenged, until you're put through that. Similar to my background, I don't have a psychology background, but the psychology of money plays a huge part, right? In how you view saving, investing, how you view communicating about money. So but it still sounds like, Leila, that your process is, because you are mediating between two sides, there is a psychological counseling factor to that, right? That is part of what you do.
Yes, because, a lot of, everybody thinks divorce is a legal process. Legal process, yes, it's only one part of it, but it's a lot of time, it's an emotional aspect of it. A lot of times when people say no, when people stay in a position and they say, I want the house and I'm not going to do anything if I don't get the house. There is something bigger than that going on behind what they say. And, if you don't know these things, you would just jump in and say, hey, this is what the law says. If you want the house, but you cannot agree, judge is going to order you sell the house and just split it up, right? But that's not going to solve whatever is going on and behind for that person. A lot of times the people that have this kind of disagreements, or there's that their house means something else to them. Maybe it represents something. It represents the neighborhood, the community, and it's that loss of community for them. So then you have to talk to them about that loss of community and how they can build that back and acknowledge that. And then when you acknowledge this, that's way they can be happy and move forward with whatever decision they make. And a lot of times they also get off of their position. But as you are absolutely right. A lot of times there is an emotional thing going on underneath that, especially with money, and that when you address that, just problem solve.
So what you just said reminded me of the first half of our conversation about prenups, because I have clients that live in the home that they grew up in, right? Their parents either passed away or gifted them the home. They're living in a family home. So if you, the listener, live in a home that was your grandmother's or grandfather's or your parents, and it sounds like that is more of a reason, that would be a great starter. Not to mix our topics here, but if you had a prenup, you could have that in design. Say, you know what, this home, even though we're together, community proper, we own this thing together. But if in the prenup, it could be discussed that the home would maybe stay with the person whose family was gifted from, and a financial settlement could be arranged to raise cash to buy the other person out. I've seen that a lot. Because that's true, especially here in the Bay Area. There's certainly a lot of people who are able to afford the exorbitant prices of real estate here in the Bay Area. But for a lot of people, they are living in family homes, right? And that's their way of being able to stay in this area. I'm sure it's similar in Southern California as well. It's not cheap anywhere really in California, because it's a great place to live and be. So that process, I just want to go back to that, this child-centered divorce. Talk to us about that process. What are the logistics of that? And then when does someone reach out to contact you if they want to talk about your process for child-centered divorce?
So, I'll also say, children are near and dear to my heart. And I like to help families with children going through divorce. At the same time, it doesn't mean that I don't help other couple that, going through divorce that don't have children. I also help those couple. But, things will get more complicated when there is children involved. And as I said, that your children are going to be your children forever. They're not going to end when they turn 18. So because of that, I think as much as possible, unless there is very bad abuse or some sort of a situation like that, I think any process that is out of court and negotiated between the two, husband and wife, between the couple themselves, and being drafted with the help of an attorney, it is best. And when you are able to negotiate yourself the terms of your agreement, chances are your agreement are even more durable, as opposed to when somebody forces you with the deadline and the judges and the trial and all the humilities that comes with that.
I can only imagine. Yeah. Leila, we're coming to the end of our show, but I don't want to let you go without getting a couple stories from you. I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot. Share with us a success story of clients of yours that you've taken through, either with kids or without kids, or a prenup. What's a fun success story that maybe our listeners can latch onto as a reason to reach out to get started on working with you today?
So I have clients that even after a couple of years and being done with their divorce, they say, thank you so much, for helping us. We were able to save a lot of money and, focus on our child. We still have our midweek dinner together, or, I get a lot of thank yous like that, how them being able to just focus on what it is going on with their family, and that they can solve it themselves and give the power to them. They always speak of it as an empowering experience, and the fact that, we used to think divorce is going to be really tough, the way that they show it in the movies. But as a result of working with you, we had a smooth experience. And the challenges are coming up, the disagreements, even when you do it out of court, is going to show up. But what it is how you handle it. And the way that you handle it, that's your choice.
Leila, that's a great success story. I mean, if a client they go from being divorced with children to have a weekly meal together. I can't see anything more powerful than for children, especially young children, to see their parents talk, to see their parents together, even if they're divorced. I think that has to be very emotionally stabilizing. And so I couldn't have said it better myself there. That sounds excellent.
Thank you.
Leila, if our listeners want to get a hold of you to talk about what goes into a prenup and the process for that, or if, I hate to say this, but are unfortunately going through a divorce proceeding or are considering it or know someone that is, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Oh, I will share my email with you, and they can send me an email and my phone number. And I always like to share my personal phone number, and I have never had any bad experience with that, Frank, honestly, and a lot of my clients appreciate that. And I've never had any scenario when people abuse it or anything. Nobody ever called me at 1 a.m. And even though family law is a very emotional topic, but no. And I really enjoy to work very close with my clients and help them.
That sounds great. That sounds like a perfect match. That's what we do here, have a really personal, long-term relationship with our clients. So I will absolutely be sharing your email address and your phone number and all the easy ways to get a hold of you. And again, these things work in conjunction. The financial planning with the prenup and all these things go into place. So if you're listening out there, hopefully this gives you some ideas and spurns some action from you today. So Leila, it has been a pleasure talking with you. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. And thank you so much. Hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Today's guest has been Leila Parviz of Next Legal, Southern California. Thank you so much, Leila, for being here. Worth mentioning, Aaron Moore, myself, I'm a registered representative and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisory member FINRA. Our guest on today's show has not been affiliated with Sagecrest Wealth Management nor LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this show are for information purposes only and are not intended to provide you specific advice. The information is for you to reach out to your legal professional, your legal advisor, to help you implement the strategies that we discussed today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.